So we'll get going here this afternoon. Just for people on radio, it's Superintendent Steve Barlow. Actually, it's interesting this week. We've got nothing brand new to report on, but we always wanted to make sure that that we keep this open for questions that are coming up and arising during the week. So I'm going to turn it over to all of you for questions, the way we've been doing it for the week. But again, like I say, we've just got nothing brand new that we can tell you that has taken place. So I'm going to open it up to questions.
I can start off if you want. When you say there's nothing new, does that mean no new tickets for people not following the social distancing rules?
You know what? Actually, we did have one situation earlier in the week where we arrested 3 individuals in a stolen vehicle, and on top of the charges that we laid, the criminal charges that we laid, we also did give out three summonses for the social distancing.
Okay. Could you provide a bit more information in terms of when that occurred, what day, that sort of thing?
You know what? I'm going to have to send that out to you. I don't have the specific details. I know it was much earlier in the week, and so I'll have Emma send that out to everybody.
Thank you.
I know police have been patrolling around to make sure that closed businesses are safe. Have you noticed any uptick in any property crimes in that respect lately?
You know what? We have had a slight increase on our businesses being broken into, and so those are things that we've been doing more high visibility to our to those areas and a lot of our business districts. So it's been trying to spend the time and having our officers patrolling those areas.
Okay, and kind of in the same vein too, we've seen AHS give out a couple of business closures in Calgary. Gyms have been particularly affected. I'm curious what police do in respect to that. If you're looking for businesses that are open that shouldn't be open, or giving any guidelines if there's too many people in some sort of business.
You know what? Each situation is handled differently. We are getting calls that come in, and we're responding to those calls. But we're also, as our members are out patrolling, if they are seeing too many people in an area, they'll have discussions with those people, and we've had voluntary compliance on all of those situations.
And last question for me too. You say there's no new real news today, so I'm assuming there's no new COVID cases within the force. But with that, are there any new concerns that officers are faced with on a day-to-day basis?
You know what? This is ever change. Excuse me. This is ever changing, as you know. We are putting out information to our officers and updating our plans, I would say almost daily. We have no new cases with our officers, but we're seeing changes through AHS. And the easiest one would be to talk about, as you've seen, is we're seeing a lot of EMS and fire wearing surgical masks while we're driving around. We have also started that with our officers. So when our officers are in their police vehicles, you will see them wearing surgical masks to protect each other.
Can I take the next question? What are you seeing in terms of mental health calls and domestic violence calls? Has there been an uptick in that?
The mental health calls are right now are staying steady for what we're generally seeing. I know that there's a lot more anxiety and concern when it comes to that, especially when we have family members around each other a lot more often. And so there's that piece. But then on the domestic violence side, we have seen an upswing on calls for domestic violence, but generally what we're seeing is those are not violent calls, but more about verbal disputes and concerns and conflict between individuals.
So you mean like neighbors are calling more often because they're hearing verbal disputes?
That's the general tone. Yes, it is.
Can you quantify what the upswing is?
You know what? It's pretty hard when we sit there and look at our numbers, and the reason I say that is it's such a small window that we've been dealing with here. That increase is, I'm going to still say it's a slight increase. I wouldn't be able to put a specific number to it.
Superintendent, it's going to be warm this weekend. Are police going to have additional resources on public paths and parks, trying to monitor if people are coming out in big groups and not following some of these social isolation rules?
You know what? We will continue having the same resources out there that we would have on any other regular weekend. The officers are going where we believe are best suited and following where the trends may be. So I think when it comes to out on the pathways and stuff like that, a lot of our partners in bylaw and parks, those areas, they would be out on those pathways probably more than our officers. But it doesn't mean that our officers, if they're seeing a group of people, won't get out of their vehicles and have a conversation with these people.
Was there anything police had to respond to over the weekend in terms of the gatherings at churches or that type of thing, or did that fall to sort of by law?
No, we did. We have responded to some of these complaints. I don't have specifics on how many of these complaints we responded to, but I do know of one mosque that we attended, but they actually were playing by all the rules of less than 15 and keeping the crowds down and the spacing. So there was no issues there.
And I'm sorry if this has been asked before, I had to duck out for a second. Could you just comment anecdotally, are you hearing any observations from your frontline officers about the kinds of calls you're getting? For example, if people are home all the time, are you getting fewer break and enters in residential homes?
Those numbers are down, so because we have more people at home, our residential break and enters are down. As mentioned before, we have had a slight increase on our business property type crimes, but what we're doing is we're moving our resources into those business districts so that we're trying to have our best effect on trying to curb that.
Any other trends you're noticing?
The only other one would be the domestic conflict numbers. We have seen a slight increase in those, but they're more about conflict, not violence. They're more about verbal disputes and situations like that, and that's what we're dealing with.
Thank you.
Superintendent, on the weekend I was in a pharmacy and I noticed there was a homeless gentleman looking for somewhere to use the washroom. He was escorted out by police officers who recommended that he use the washroom in an alley, that he just find somewhere to go. Now, a lot of the public places that homeless people would normally go for these things, Tim Hortons, libraries, are closed. Is there sort of any help that police officers can offer outside of just sort of crudely pointing out an alley?
You know what? That's a real isolated situation, and with no details on it, it'd be hard for me to comment. I know that our officers all over the city are generally going to be moving these people along and trying to get them into public places. And what I mean by public places would be some of the other areas like the DI and Alpha House and some of the new ones that are popping up, so that they can have proper facilities to go to. But again, not having specifics on this one, it'd be hard to comment.
You mentioned that there hadn't been any new fines for people gathering and not obeying physical distancing measures. Have there been any new businesses that have been fined for and how many in total have there been so far?
I'll have to send you the total number later because I don't have that in front of me. When it comes to the business ones, I'm going to say 95% of those are handled by the bylaw officers or AHS. But I do know that we have not given out any summonses for business, for the business district.
Have there been any warnings?
There was warnings at the early onset, but I have not been briefed on any other recent cases for businesses.
Okay, thank you.
If someone notices something that they think is wrong that a business is doing in terms of social isolation, how should they contact police? What's the best way to get in touch?
Actually, generally what's taking place is we're asking people to use the AHS website or 311, and 311 will then send the call to the appropriate agency.